Strong looks different for each of us, and it's time to put focus on our unique journeys that get us there. This space, created weekly, is for athletes to improve their mindset in order to better navigate challenges that come up in sport and in different seasons of life. On this show, we ask the questions that lead to better answers and have the conversations that truly matter. This is the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Hey, you guys, what is up? Welcome back to the Becoming Your Strong podcast. Excited to have you back here this week after my weekend of fun. But before I talk about that, I want to remind you to go back and listen to last week's episode. Last week, we had a very special opportunity to have Jess Gregory, who is the wife of Kevin Gregory and co-owner of Underdog Fitness, join us as the very first guest ever to come on the podcast. So it was an amazing conversation. It is probably one of the more successful episodes in terms of downloads. There's people getting a lot of really good things out of it. So if you haven't listened to it yet, be sure to go and listen to it at some point. But let's jump into what's going on for this week. I want to start it off again with the Becoming Your Strong moment, where listeners of the podcast are out there doing amazing things by overcoming, persevering, and stepping into their version of strong every single day. And what I wanted to do was recognize someone who isn't necessarily a listener, maybe not yet, but just something that I had the chance to witness over the weekend. So this past weekend, I did my very first ever CrossFit competition. And this was interesting for me because I've never been like, I want to compete in CrossFit. Like, it's never been one of those things that I've been excited about. In fact, I've actually been scared and sort of hesitant because I've seen how many people have gotten injured and just the rumors around that, each to their own, right? Like, you could step off the side of a sidewalk and get hurt. You have to assume the risk if you're doing anything physical in any sort of capacity. So I kind of put those to the side, and I especially put them to the side a couple years ago. Or no, I'm sorry, not a couple years ago, but a couple months ago when I watched Dave do a CrossFit competition. And I was like, the energy in here is lit. These are super fun workouts and events. Like, I want to be a part of this because I know that I would be pushed to do really big things in these kinds of environments. So long story short, Dave and I signed up for something this weekend, and it was a fun, like, choose your own adventure type of CrossFit competition, which is perfect and very friendly to someone that's new to the sport. So we had an absolute blast. And one of the most notable moments from the weekend is I remember watching one of the events, and there was an older man with someone that I assumed was his daughter, and they were doing a lunge event, and they were lunging side by side with each other. And, the dad was kind of struggling a little bit, but doing the best that he could. And it was just like one of those heartwarming moments where I was like, that's really freaking sweet. Like, that he is coming out here with his younger daughter and doing the best that he can, and they're challenging each other to be the best that they can be in this whole situation. And then they ended up taking a podium spot together, and they gave him a moment to just share his story. And he actually developed MS a couple years back, which took him out of sports, motocross, that he loved, and that was a really hard blow for him. And he knew that the only way that he could start to really fight back to this was to get into strength training. And so after years of doubt and just, conversations around what it is that he needed to do to progress, he finally built up the courage to try CrossFit for the first time. And he hasn't looked back since, and has become a really well-known, committed member of his community. And he got to stand on the podium that day with his daughter because of a commitment he made to himself a few years ago. And that just really hit home to me. And I wanted to bring that out as the Becoming Your Strong moment of the week, because life, you guys, will always throw us curveballs. And by no means are they ever fair. But if we can find the strength, they can be the reasons that we do the impossible. And in this life, there is no better feat to get to have those moments of, I did this when the odds were against me. This is just a reminder to have gratitude for resistance in your life, as it is truly setting you up for something great on the horizon. And just that moment was the perfect picture moment of that. So I wanted to share that. Now, moving on to the overall topic of the week, I just want to talk about my first CrossFit competition and just some things that came from it. Because it was a time where I got to step out of my element. And with that came with certain lessons that I learned and things that I recognize that I'm hoping will help all of you as listeners. So just overall, the weekend was awesome. And I knew walking into it that we were the underdogs because I have no experience in CrossFit. And it's actually kind of funny. People were asking me over the weekend, how long have you been doing it? And I'm like, never. Like, I do cleans whenever they get programmed every once in a blue moon. Like, it's true. Like, I don't do this stuff nearly as much as these people that we were competing against. So I knew that we were the underdogs, especially in the RX division with my lack of experience and just learning Olympic lifts, over the last 6 to 12 months at most, right? Very intermittently. The events themselves were so freaking fast and furious that there was just no time to think. You just had to do. And in so many ways, it was a con because it was hard to actually enjoy what was happening. But it was also, in so many other ways, absolutely amazing because you just didn't have time to doubt yourself. And you just had to go out there and do the dang thing. And I got to experience a lot of fruits just from that alone. And that leads me in to the first thing, right, is just, again, this mentality of I knew that we weren't going to be the best. I knew that we would do well, but that we weren't going to be the best. And I just walked away feeling so grateful that other people are out there showing me what's possible and are giving me other goals to strive for, to be hungry for. I was so freaking excited, you guys, about the PR that I got on my 1 rep max clean. I threw up 150 pounds after a couple weeks ago. I could barely throw up 135. And it was just the coolest moment for me. The pictures, I cannot wait for you guys to see these pictures of just the look on my face when I did it. It was actually a really cool moment where, let's see, a couple weeks ago I hit 135. And then about a week before the event, I hit 135 and it felt really good. And I was like, I'm going to put 5 more pounds on the bar, and I hit 140. And so my goal was to actually come in and try and hit closer to 145. And so I basically put up 135, power cleaned 135. And I was like, Mama's feeling good today. And then I put 145 on the bar. No hesitation. I was just like, if I was just able to power clean 135, there's no reason why I can't squat clean 145. And so I put it on there and I got it. And then Dave hit his lift at 2:15. He power cleaned his, and we had 15-20 seconds left on the clock to hit one last lift. And I was like, I'm going to go for it. And so I threw more weight on, got it up to 150, and I landed it. And it was just such a really cool moment, just knowing I am by no means good at these at all. Technically, my technique is not there yet. I'm basically kind of muscling these things up, which is cool to know how strong I am. But all of that to say, I was so excited about that. And then in the next heat, I got to watch ladies clean 185 plus. And it's super easy to be like, wow, I am so out of my league. Woe is me. All the negative things. But I sat there with the biggest eyes, oh my God, holy cow. How cool is it that one day I'll be able to do that, and that I get to watch other women right now in this moment from all different type of backgrounds. I watched a postpartum woman clean 185, a few months out of postpartum. And just seeing all these different people execute pure strength like this, how lucky am I that I get to be a part of these things? At the end of the day, you can either play the victim, or you can say, if they can, one day I can too. And that's what I walked away with. And I always try and walk away with that in every single thing that I do. DECA, High Rocks, CrossFit, whatever that looks like. When you turn your jealousy into gratitude for what other people are proving are possible and that you could do it too with focus and with effort, it just completely changes your mindset. And it just puts you in those amazing feel-good vibes to actually go out there and do the thing, versus when you're in that state of just poor me, victim mentality, you're holding yourself back in so many subconscious ways I can't even begin to describe. So step into gratitude for what people are actually showing you what's possible. The next few things that I want to share with you guys come from the results of the competition and how everything ended. So there were 4 events, and going into the very last event, we were in a battle for 3rd place. We were tied. The final event was actually the clean event, where it started off with as many synchro cleans that you could do with your partner. And the way that this workout was scored, at least in the first part, was you would take however many reps you did within the 3 rounds of work. So it's 30 seconds of all out work, a minute 30 of rest. You would do that for 3 rounds, and you had to do them synchronized within the movement standards, etc. Whatever reps you guys got combined, you would take that and then multiply it by the total weight on the bar between you and your partner. And so that was part 1 score. And then the part 2 score was however much total weight between you and your partner you were able to clean for your one rep max. Oh my gosh, I can't speak. And so the people that we were tied with, they got to go in the heat after us. So they got to see exactly what it is that they needed to do in order to edge us out. And so honestly, we didn't even think about that. I was so excited and so focused on just putting up the best performance for me and just enjoying this last workout with Dave that it just didn't matter. And then we were sitting there and we were talking to the mom of one of the girls that was in the team that we were tied with. And, it was all friendly. We didn't want anyone to do poorly. Like, that's definitely not the mindset that Dave and I had. Yes, we're competitive and yes, we want to do well, but never do we wish ill on other people. And so we were watching them. And the really unfortunate part about this whole situation is that they got the same amount of reps, but because they got to see what weight we put on the bar, all they had to do is put a pound or 2 more and hit the same reps, and they automatically won the workout. And so that was the first bummer. The second bummer was that unfortunately, the reps themselves were not clean, and they were not to standard. And this was one of those competitions where it wasn't like the judges were like no repping all over the place. Like, this is like more of like a family, friend, community, fun competition. Let's just go out there and do our best. And so the judges counted the reps, even though they were very much not to standard. And that's the reason that they got to stand on the podium that day, and they got recognized for all of their hard work. And in that moment, when all of that was happening and I realized that we had lost, even after every single workout we did, we put up not only our best performance and we kept up with the people that, had much more experience than us, but that we actually deserved the win and we didn't get the win because simply certain reps were not called. Like, I struggled. I really mentally and emotionally struggled in a way that I haven't struggled in a while, probably ever, quite honestly, at least none that I can recall. I had to stop and really think about what was happening inside of my head, inside of my heart. I didn't judge myself in the moment, and I just let myself feel the frustration because I work so hard in everything that I do, professionally, personally, in my fitness career, whether it's I'm going to go out there and try and wing it in this CrossFit competition or I'm going to Deca World Championships. I work so freaking hard. And to not be recognized for it is such a tough blow. But in that thought to myself, I remembered that the only recognition that truly matters is my own. And the reason I was struggling to lean into that was due to my deep-rooted insecurity of never being enough. I needed that recognition from other people of, hey, you took 3rd place, to feed confidence into that bucket that insecurity no longer is true. But instead, I was just searching for the wrong form of recognition and validation outwardly. I had to reroute my thoughts that I should be so proud of the impressive performance I put up and that I ultimately lived what I preach, which is to get out of comfort and into discomfort. So I asked myself, what actually matters here? What is the purpose behind why I'm even doing this whole thing in the first place? Was the purpose of this to get podium recognition that we all know the happiness lasts for a few minutes? Or was it for me to genuinely be so proud of myself and letting these moments that I got to experience this weekend build momentum for what's to come the rest of this year? What is the actual purpose of this? And I decided to choose the latter, which is to build momentum, to take all of these amazing things to allow for me to see. Last year was just an introductory to what I'm possible. Wait and watch for what I can do in 2025. Another thing that I want to mention in relation to this is when all of this was happening, I thought back to a conversation that I had the night before with Dave, and we were watching Wodapalooza. And just over the last couple of months, I should say, I've witnessed some things that have sort of rubbed me the wrong way in terms of when athletes lose and they're a sore loser about it and how they don't congratulate other people, they're not happy for other people, just like they put up a stink. It just really rubs me the wrong way. And I just happened to witness something that just has stuck with me and has unfortunately made me not enjoy watching this athlete nearly as much as I used to. But what I told him is that what defines a champion is not what happens on the competition floor, but it's what happens off of it. I've had so many chances and opportunities to stand on this podium within the last 365 days, and today just wasn't one of those days. But it was a chance for me to have a champion's mindset while not standing on the podium and being thrilled to be surrounded by the greatness that was filling the room, that was ultimately giving me the opportunity to be better, to push for more, to be hungry for more. And that leads into the last thing that I was telling Dave in the car ride back, is I was just embarrassed, and I still am embarrassed about how torn up I was about the podium situation. And it's hard for me to come on here and honestly just admit this, just knowing how inspirational I am to all of you and how much you all just appreciate my mindset. But what I hope that this shows is that we're all human, and it's okay to have these moments and to be upset and to be frustrated, as long as you walk away being able to have a solid reflection and honest conversation with yourself and take the lessons with you to become a better human being. These moments that we have where maybe we're embarrassed of how we acted or we're frustrated or whatever the case might be, these moments aren't meant to come into our lives to tear us down or to stop us from our potential. They come to us because the universe knows we have the potential to become more than we are and is giving us these gifts to do just that. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today, and I hope that this episode truly resonated. And if it did, please be sure to rate, review the podcast, share this with friends and family. Again, thank you guys so much for just giving me this space to learn, to grow, to become better with you. And again, I really hope that my honesty and vulnerability has helped you just feel not alone, and that we're doing this life together and we're becoming better because of it. So until next week, you guys, go out there, become your version of strong, step into it every single day, and I'll see you guys next week on the next episode of Becoming Your Strong. See you then.